What is history? A study of the past. But let's look further. When does history begin? Recorded history describes the historical events that have been recorded in a written form. It begins with the accounts of the ancient world around the 4th millennium BCE, and it coincides with the invention of writing. Like discovery of fire, beginning of agriculture, the written word has completely transformed human lives. It gave the ability to transmit knowledge to the masses during and after the lifetime of its writer. The birth of a writing system is the point where history begins, and the rest can be termed as prehistory. In the case of India, there is an intermediate phase between recorded history and prehistory. The Indus Valley script is the oldest known writing system in India. But since that script has not been deciphered yet, that phase has come to be referred as proto-history, and history would begin at the next best thing, Brahmi. This short series will cover the story of how this ancient writing system was rediscovered and what significant information of lost kings and empires it gave us. Brahmi was used in ancient India from the 3rd century BCE to around the 5th century CE. Before we look into the story of Brahmi, let us first understand the difference between a language and a writing system. A language is a spoken form of communication that can either be written or spoken. In most cases, languages first develop as a spoken form and later in a written form. A writing system, on the other hand, is a set of symbols used to represent the spoken sounds or phonetics of a language. For example, the English language is written in the Latin writing system and the Marathi language is written in Devanagari. Do check out this video by Useful Charts for an excellent explanation of the same topic. Now that we know the difference between a language and a writing system, we have to understand that Brahmi is a writing system. It was used to write multiple languages, including Prakrit, Pali, and Sanskrit. In fact, Brahmi is the ancestor to the most of the Indian writing systems. No less than 60 scripts used by languages from the Indo-Aryan, Dravidian, Austro-Asiatic, and Tibeto-Burman languages have evolved from Brahmi. The National Museum at Delhi has an exhibition that shows the evolution of each and every character of Brahmi to modern day scripts. The oldest Brahmi inscriptions have been found at ancient pillars and monuments like these. To understand how an ancient writing system like Brahmi was deciphered, we need to know about a few small details. First, it is an Abugida type of writing system. That means long and short vowels combine with consonants to form single characters. People familiar with Indian writing systems might already understand this. Let us look at an example. This letter represents the sound K, and it merges with this letter which represents the sound U to form Ku. The first is a consonant and the second is a vowel. As covered earlier, Devanagari script is a descendant of Brahmi and works in the same manner. Similarly, two consonants can also merge to form a conjunct consonant. Like this letter for the sound K can merge with this letter for the sound Y to form Kya. And as shown earlier, this works in the same way in Devanagari script. Brahmi, like Latin, is written from the left to right, and although it was once referred to as the stick figure script, we now know that the letters are syllabic and not pictographic like the Egyptian script. Let us look at its history. Brahmi was used widely in the Indian subcontinent from the 3rd century BCE to around the 5th century CE. It was used in royal inscriptions, religious monuments, and even on coins. Eventually, the script branched out into several regional variants, including Tamil Brahmi, Gupta Brahmi, Grantha, etc. So Indians lost the ability to read the old Brahmi. Well, in time, Brahmi was lost to history. But people across various time periods did come across monuments and pillars that were etched with its script. One such example was the Sultan of Delhi, Firoz Shah Tughlaq, who in the 14th century had one monument moved to his capital. It was an enormous effort with a force of 10,000 people that were required to move that monument. What are you going to do? Refuse the king? And then what? Anyway, once Tughlaq had it installed in his palace, he tried to understand the words etched on it. He even offered a reward to anyone who would decipher the script for him, but unfortunately, no one was able to, and it would be another 500 years before a new ruling class would attempt to decipher it, and they would get it once and for all. By the 18th century, the British had arrived in India via the East India Company. They had conquered large parts of the subcontinent and had set up a capital at Calcutta. But there was a problem. The British did not know anything about the country that they were about to rule. They didn't know the languages, the customs, the laws, and the overall nature of the country. So a body of knowledge had to be formed to understand and administer India. This was done by the setting up of the Royal Asiatic Society of Bengal in 1784 to inquire about all deeds performed by man or produced by nature within the geographical limits of Asia. It was also the period of the Great Trigonometrical Survey of India. Maps were being made, illustrations and paintings of temples, flora and fauna of India were being made. Kalidas was being translated. Copies of inscriptions were being made and published in journals, and books were being written on India. The initial steps towards deciphering of archaic scripts started with the translation of a few 9th century Pala era inscriptions. It is through sheer ingenuity of Charles Wilkins that these inscriptions were translated. However, these Pala era inscriptions were in the Siddha Matrika script, which is a descendant of Brahmi by about 1,000 years. It is quite similar to the archaic forms of Bengali and Devanagari, and hence was translated through comparisons. This process would, however, not apply to Brahmi because it is quite different from any of those scripts. It is here that the protagonist of this story enters. In 1819, James Prinsep travelled to India after having joined the East India Company. He was following in his father's footsteps, who had made a fortune in the company and as an indigo merchant. James was assigned duty in the Calcutta Mint as a deputy assay master, a role that requires the testing of metals to determine its quality. This job led him to study old coins and the scripts inscribed on them. During his time in India, Prinsep would contribute many articles to the magazine Gleanings in Science. Eventually, he converted this magazine to the now famous Journal of the Asiatic Society of Bengal and became its founding editor. It was in this journal that Prinsep would publish all his discoveries. He, like most early antiquarians and myself, was not a trained historian. However, Prinsep had the gift of intuition and the ability to deduce things. It was this skill that would play a big role in his journey of deciphering Brahmi. Can you guess which other countryman of his, although fictional, was also famous for deduction? In the next episodes of this short series, we will take a look at how Prinsep went about gathering clues to solving the mystery of the Brahmi script. We will also take a look at what the deciphered script led us to and what lost tales it revealed to us from ancient India. If you are interested to know more about history and languages, check out Useful Charts channel that I will link in the description box below. I hope you like this video and keep tuned for the next parts.